What's up guys, and wait, what's this? A video? He's alive? That's correct, I'm here and I'm back. Not necessarily back, we'll talk about that in a second, but welcome guys to the first video actually I'm making regarding Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield on my channel. As you may have seen, it's been a while since I uploaded, just over a year in fact, but given we had a Pokemon Direct the other day, I figured I'd make a video or two because I'm sort of feeling the buzz. As I mentioned, I'm not back fully. I really can't do it full time anymore because I have an actual job now. So it's more a case of I don't want to devote all my free time to doing this. I want to actually have some time to, some downtime to relax. So maybe I'll throw in a few videos here and there regarding Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, but unfortunately nothing too overwhelming, I suppose. But I'm back here. As I mentioned, Pokemon Direct was out and we saw some information about Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, so got a few video days I thought I'd go around. I might have made a video regarding Pokemon Sword and Shield when they were first revealed. However, I was not actually in my house at the time. I was on the complete opposite side of the planet, so not too convenient for me to make a video, and by the time I was back it was, 2-3 weeks after the reveal, so sort of slipped me past. But I'm here now. We're going to make a few videos covering Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield and the Galar region. In terms of what videos we're going to do, this one is going to be a fairly simple trailer analysis. Going to go through the trailer we saw the other day and step out and pick out any things we notice. But I'm also planning a few videos here and there regarding the new gimmick, the new battle mechanic / gimmick. It's a gimmick. And how that might play out in terms of the games, in terms of plots, and possibly in terms of competitive. And then also I'm going to do a video covering the Galar map. One thing that I've done in the past with Kalos and Lola is done a map analysis, look at the actual artwork of the map, and since we now have not just the original map reveal, but we've got some, a few good shots from the trailers and so on and so forth, we can actually delve in a bit more and link those screenshots to the places on the map, and again theorise on how the plot may play out in terms of how we're going to navigate this new region. Then other videos maybe on the new Pokemon, or on leaks as well. Leak videos will be separate, of course. I'm not going to have any leaked information in this video, so if you are avoiding leaks and just sticking to official information, then you should be safe here. But I will be planning to do a leak video, especially because one of the leaks actually seems to have been confirmed by this information we've seen here, so we can delve in and actually learn some more unofficial information as it comes. But for today, we're doing a trailer analysis, so I'm going to stop talking now because, well, no, I'm not going to stop talking, but I'm going to talk about something more important than me. Let's go on and have a look at the trailer. So it first opens up with a few screenshots, just a general overview of the region. So we've got a couple of different towns and cities. We've seen one of these cities before in the previous initial trailer. Some shots there with a clock tower, which probably based on Big Ben, since the region seems very much to be based on the United Kingdom. So that's pretty cool. I'm loving that. And then we have a second sort of, after we go through the area shots, we get our first sort of full shot, well not sorry first shot, but a good full shot of the main protagonist, the male protagonist at least. And what I want to point out here is the logo, the icon on his shirt. That's the most interesting thing here, because it's there. What is it for? Well, I believe part of it is the Dynamax logo, the sort of swords at the bottom, or the two lines at the bottom. But I also think it's going to be the official sort of icon for the Galar region. So we've had obviously Kalos, we had a sort of pentagon-y thing with the 3 different areas of Kalos, with coastal, central and mountain I think it was. And then obviously Alola we had the clover for the 5 islands. This time clearly we're getting something that's related to Sword and Shield, so you have sort of 2 swords at the bottom and then an arc across the top which seems to form a shield there. So I'd expect that's the icon we're going to see on the summary menu for the Pokemon to identify which generation they come from. Indicates it comes from Generation 8 rather than Gen 6, Gen 7 and so on and so forth. We might see it pop up around. As I mentioned, the Dynamax logo does look similar to it from what I remember, so again that just links in with the whole Generation 8 theme. But then, moving on further to the next set, we get a good look at some starter Pokemon. Of course, we have the 3 here we've seen before, Scorbunny, Sobble and Grookey, if I can remember them correctly. and obviously this seems to be basically where we get the starter Pokemon at the start of the game, the usual sort of selection screen, and then we also get little shots of a cinematic afterwards. I believe we had a similar thing in Sun Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where you pick your starter and there's a little bit of a fun cinematic there. So obviously School Bunny's going to give you a little fist bump. Who knows what Grookey or Sobble will do. I haven't spoken about the starters before, obviously, as I mentioned, there was no initial video for this, so I won't talk about too much about here, but obviously this is the area where you pick out your starter Pokemon, and of course when I get to the map analysis video, we can link this into actually where in the map you're going to find your starter Pokemon. Next up then, moving on further, we get a few more area shots, one sort of in a mountainous area and the other one in an industrial area. The mountainous one, just want to point out straight away, there are Diglett statues, so you see one big Diglett in the centre and then two Diglets either side, so technically it could be a dog trio, but I think they're individuals, which is pretty cool. You know, don't see Diglett really as being a Pokemon that anyone might worship, but maybe there's some lore to it. Maybe there'll be an NPC around to say, oh yes, this area was carved out by Diglets, who knows. And of course the industrial area may be related to the same sort of city the clock tower was in, because that's sort of mechanically based. But we can't really tell from the screenshot itself, but it looks fairly rusty, I suppose. Or not rustic, but rusty. Moving on further, we get our first protagonist, but our first characters coming in here. There are three here you get revealed in these few shots here. We have Sonia, we have Professor Magnolia, and we have Hop. So yeah, interesting names of course, or at least for Hop. Sonia is the Professor's granddaughter, I believe it is. So these two are going to be leading you through the region, it would seem. Obviously Magnolia is going to focus as your main professor, but Sonia is probably the one you'll meet up with throughout the story, similar to Dawn, I would suppose, in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl and Platinum. So that'd be maybe a similar sort of relationship there. Of course, she's looking at, researching the new phenomenon, the new mechanic, if you want to call it that, in the region as well, so I'm sure she'll take us through that. As for Hop, clearly he's one of our rivals because we saw him in a battle sequence right at the start of the trailer. We also see him here now talking to the professor, so this is most likely the same point as getting your starter Pokemon, or maybe getting the Pokedex, who knows. Interesting characters, and we'll see, I guess, how they flesh out eventually. Moving further on then, we get our look at some new Pokemon. We love some new Pokemon here. So, first up we have 4 here, and there's one later on in the video we'll look at, but 3 sort of standards, and there's one special one that gets its own little reveal. So the first that we have is Gossifleur, pure grass type, basic grassy Pokemon like Oddish, for example. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. Next is probably the one that's taken the internet most by storm, and that is Wooloo, a new sheep Pokemon, similar to Mareep, but it's a pure normal type, so it's probably going to be part of a normal type line, possibly similar to like Lillipup, maybe. It doesn't quite function as a rodent Pokemon like Rattata, Patrat, Sentra, etc. So maybe a Lilip form line is similar, so maybe 1 or 2 evolutions after it, growing into maybe a larger sheep with more wool. And then the third one we have is Dreadnought, the one right at the centre top, and this is a water rock type. That's a snapping turtle based design, it seems to be. This one's a bit more interesting because we don't quite know how the evolution line will match up. The other two we can sort of assume it's going to have an evolution, but is Dreadnought going to be a standalone? Is it going to evolve into something? Or maybe is it going to be an evolution of something? Or maybe even the centre one of a free chain? Don't quite know at the moment. My guess would be possibly have an evolution if it's got some potential, but who knows. And then the final one we have is Corviknight, the other one that people seem to have latched on and think is quite cool. This is a flying steel type Pokemon based on a raven, because it's the UK and all, and apparently ravens are, well, we have ravens, other places have ravens, who knows exactly why. It was time for a raven Pokemon anyway. And it's pretty big, it's like 7 foot tall, because it links in with our part of, I guess, a travel mechanic in the region, and that's the Corviknight Taxi, which allows you to fly from city to city. So maybe that's going to function as the replacement for the HM Fly and Poker Ride. Maybe they couldn't get something as flexible as Poker Ride, so they went for something a bit more standard. You can travel from city to city, but you can't travel from anywhere to any city. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. The other thing worth mentioning is the centre of the screen here. You can see there's an exclamation mark in the grass itself. In the trailer, you then run into the grass, and that's when your encounter starts. Now, I think in the very first trailer for Sword and Shield, there was a general running into the grass and a battle started. I didn't see any exclamation mark, and that led most people to believe that, oh okay, it's going to be back to standard wild encounters, there's no let's go basis here. However, looking from this trailer and also some other images and so on and so forth, it seems we're going to get a mixture. So you're going to see some Pokemon out in the wild, but you're also going to have exclamation marks pick up in shaking grass, and you can run to that shaking grass to enact another encounter. So it seems to be 50-50 almost. It might be a case of that you can also get standard encounters in the grass as well as these exclamation patches, but there are just Pokemon in the wild as well. Unsure of that, of course. We'll have to see whether there's any future clarification when a demo comes out, or whether we see some gameplay at E3 next week, so hopefully that'll come around. But it looks to be, yeah, so like they're around in the wild and you can encounter them like that, but you can also go to these shaking patches of grass to get maybe rarer Pokemon possibly, and maybe that's how they'll build a shiny mechanic into this game. Let's Go, obviously, it was just a case of you did a catch combo and then you had more chance of shiny Pokemon appearing as they run around everywhere. Whether they would bring a similar thing into the main series line, we don't know. Whether it'll be a more like a chaining aspect like we had in Diamond and Pearl and so on and so forth. Who knows, but it seems we're getting a hybrid mixture of wild Pokemon encounters, which I think is for the best. That was one of my disappointments seeing the very first trailer, and that was there were no wild Pokemon in the wild. Out and about like Let's Go. So, moving then further, there's another quick shot before we get onto some more meaty stuff, and this is of Sobble with a little like musical note above his head. And in the background you can see a tent. Now, he's not in a battle here, you can tell, because why would the musical note be there? And it would be obvious he was in a battle because you're able to see, trainers and whatnot. So the question is, what's going on here? Now, the musical note makes me believe this is going to be some sort of replacement for Pokemon and Me, or similar stuff. So like, I can't remember the one in Sun and Moon, what it was called, but it's basically Pokemon and Me as well. Obviously, they need to carry across that mechanic for Sylveon to some extent, or at least rework it if not. But they seem to like having a playing with your Pokemon mechanic in there somewhere. So maybe this is it here, because that's the sort of usual thing you see. It's on the ground, you're playing, it's got a musical note, that sort of thing. But the tent in the background is a bit interesting. It could just be that's the area you're in. Maybe you're next to a tent and you just happen to be playing a Pokemon there, who knows? Or maybe it's linked. It might be actually, maybe the tent itself is linked to it. So obviously tents are for camping, so maybe you're camping out with your Pokemon in the wild, which sort of links onto some of the stuff we'll be looking at in a second. Before that though, we have some classic montage of running into trainer battles. You can see some more different areas of the game. We have a mine, which we've seen some of in the first trailer already. We also have the lush fields of wheat that Theresa May might like to run through. And we also have obviously a stadium in the background. We'll look more at that later on. And then we have obviously a foresty area, and then finally some snowy area with some nice water around. And obviously a nice montage of different trainer types. So we seem to have a miner. We have possibly a breeder or a farmer at the top right. Bottom left seems to be maybe a beauty. And then bottom right is a karate man. Whichever you might fight a karate man, who knows exactly, dojo. Something like that. So you got a nice montage here. So trainer battles obviously returning and seems to be in the same sort of format as we've always had. They stand in the route and you run past them and then you have to battle them. That makes sense. Moving then further on, we have the proper wild, Breath of the Wild Pokemon to some extent. So this is the wild area. We have a nice sprawling section, as again we'll look at in the map video, towards the centre of the map. And it seems like this is a very dynamic open area. So from the trailer and from the Direct in general, it seems to be an open world area where you can enter. There are Pokemon roaming about. It's dynamic in terms of the weather changes, possibly every day, possibly it's maybe you have one weather type a week, who knows. And you can see obviously loads of different Pokemon here on these different shots. We have Corviknight, Galurk, Duskull, Gyarados, Frillish, Butterfree, Beware, Orbifet, Hippopotas and Snova, as well as other ones in the actual individual screenshots that are too small for you to see. But I know there's some Stuffle, there's a Bonsweet in another one, so there's definitely a bit of variation. And looking at the screenshots themselves, you can analyse them and figure out, okay, you can actually see the clock tower from the first 4, so like the centre one and then the top left 3, they all have the clock tower in them, so they're actually all in the same area, even though they look fairly different. You have snow in one, then you have some, dead grass, I would say maybe, and then the other shots you have actually bright green grass. So it seems like this is a very dynamic area that changes over time to give you plenty of different variation in your Pokemon. The other thing that's worth questioning, and we'll talk more about it in the map video, is how this will work with leveling, because it's quite a large area. Okay, so say you access it at some point in the game, they're level 20, let's say. you're going to come back for this area a lot, and you're going to be heading up and down the area quite a lot as well. If those Pokemon are forever level 20, that's going to be pretty boring. So maybe the levelling will be dynamic as well, and also possibly the wild Pokemon that appear. We have Gyarados here, Galurk. If you're going to be looking to catch a Galurk, you've really got to be late in the game to some extent, haven't you? You've got to be level 30, 40, so how late in the game are they actually going to introduce the wild area if a Galurk is just walking around? Thus, it could be dynamic. It could be the fact that, depending on how many gym badges you have, different Pokemon will appear in the wild, and there'll be different levels and so on and so forth, which will be quite interesting because it does make it to some extent an open world game that scales with you. In past videos where I've spoken about how this Pokemon on the Switch could do something similar to approach as Breath of Wild, I've spoken about scaling with different badges and different Pokemon appear in different levels and so on and so forth. They could be doing a sort of trial here to see how this works. They might not want to go for a full game, so this might be their compromise. But they could also be doing a trial for future games as well. If people really like the wild area and how it scales and different Pokemon appear, depending on how far you are through the game, then they might think about maybe pulling it across and doing some more of it. We'll see there, but the wild area is definitely cool. As well as everything we've talked about, the wild area also has a dynamic camera. Oh boy, a dynamic camera. This is another thing we were talking about with Pokemon Switch, having the actual ability to control the camera, because we have, of course, 2 control sticks on a Switch rather than 1, or not even 1 on the 3DS, for example. So you can control the camera, which is pretty cool. And again, you can see some more Pokemon here. We have a Mudsdale, a Seismitoad, Tyranitar, an Avalugg, a Horlucha, a Milotic, and then Mantine and Mantike as well. So lots of variation. Again, if you want to catch a Tyranitar early into the game, that's pretty OP. Thus, if you've not got enough badges, maybe you'll just see some Larvitar instead. Maybe, we'll see. And again, you can see some variations with the area, a sandstorm down there by those dead trees you can see. And it's also worth noting, of course, you're riding a bike in the bottom left shot, and in the top left shot you're also riding a bike, but it's on water. You have like floaties on your wheels to help you cycle across the water. So Professor Oak is rolling in his grave currently. If he's dead, who knows. And the other thing worth mentioning, I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but there is a Rotom phone returning. It wasn't actually in the trailer or in the Direct at all. It was only revealed on the website. But Rotom phone is functioning as your Pokedex as well, so they've gone from a Rotom Pokedex to a Rotom phone Pokedex. So you have your Pokedex in it, but also the phone will be there, so possibly that'll work like a Pokenav, for example. So we'll see how that's implemented, but the specific thing is, apparently the Rotom phone can be used to help you ride your bike on water, for example. Since you're going to have the Rotom phone from right at the start of the game, I don't see how that being an upgrade is that useful, since you're probably going to get the phone before you get the bike. But maybe there's a trade-off, we'll have to see exactly. And maybe I'll talk about Rotom phone elsewhere. Rotom phone elsewhere. More stuff for the wild area though. We have a few other screenshots just highlighting a few extra mechanics there. Apparently you can whistle. You can see the guy at the bottom right whistling, and the Pokemon in the grass are alerted to it. So maybe that's just a fun tidbit, or maybe that's something to do with tempting out Pokemon that can be scared of you to battle, because similar to Let's Go, some Pokemon will chase you, others will run away from you. So maybe if you tempt them out nicely, they'll agree to battle you. Then we also have berry trees, and then fishing. Fishing's back. Fishing's obviously going to come back. It's pretty standard. And then berry trees is obviously the way you're going to get berries in this game, rather than having to, pick them up from the floor or grow them somewhere. I'm guessing you could just come out to the wild area, give those trees a shake, and get yourself some berries. So, a bit more wild area again, because it's a pretty big feature and functions as most of this Direct. We then have a nice montage of these red points of light shining up into the sky, and there's quite a lot of them. And as you see more videos and images of the wild area, you'll spot more and more of these little platforms. And of course, right at the end, you tend to have 4 players join up for this new mechanic, which is basically a raid battle from Pokemon Go. This links into the newer gimmick, as we'll talk about in a second, but in terms of how this multiplayer side works, it's going to be quite interesting. What I don't think is going to be the case is that the wild area will be like a multiplayer area where you can join other people's games and run around together. I don't think it's going to be that, because apart from the raid battles, there's nothing you can do together. I feel like it's going to be a case of you have to go to one of the raid platforms and join a lobby as such. Maybe this small graphic here is just a graphic of you being in the lobby as such, a quick sort of cinematic before you begin your raid battle. But I don't think it's going to be a very big sprawling multiplayer. I think it's going to simply be a case of you go to the platform when there's a lobby open, or you can search for a lobby or something like that, and you can join in there. Of course, confirmed was local play as well as online play. They did have us for a second there in the trailer where they said you can connect locally to battle with your friends for raid battles. By the way, you can also do it online. That was very, for a second there, I was, a little bit. So there's not confirmed. And also, if you don't have enough players to fill out a 4-person lobby, you will get filled in with like trainer, NPCs basically, so you can actually, if you don't have internet access, or if you've got no friends, or if there's just no one on the lobby, you can still go ahead and do the battle, which is quite nice. It's good they thought of that, otherwise some people will just get completely shafted by this feature. Another thing worth mentioning is how they made a nice highlight of saying that only one person can use the new gimmick, the new Dynamax gimmick in a raid battle, so you have to be strategic and work with your fellow teammates to determine who's going to do it. So if it's a Gyarados, it's probably going to be a Raichu that goes against it, not a Charmander, for example. However, how are we going to, you can't communicate online, because I'm assuming there'll be no online voice chat, because it's a very small feature anyway. So unless you're in person together, it's going to be hard to do that. So good job, Nintendo. Even if we can play with friends online, it might just be randoms. Shout out to Super Mario Maker 2. Then, moving on, next we have, of course, the focus on Dynamax. So the raid battles begin, you have your 4 friends here with you against a big giant Pokemon. We'll talk more about Dynamax in the separate video because we can dive into it a bit more. But the general gist of the raid battle is there's a big superpower Pokemon, very similar to Pokemon Go, and you have to team up with some friends to take it down. There are these big Pokeballs that you can use to send out and catch these Dynamaxed Pokemon, which are probably maybe be a new Pokeball type, or it may just be linked to your new band, the Dynamax band. So going to be very much blinging it out by the end of the game. You can have your Mega Ring, you can have your Z Ring, and you can have your Dynamax band, just like showing them off. There's going to be a coating on your arm, although realistically the Dynamax band will probably function as a Z Ring or a Mega Ring as well. They'll just throw it in there and say, oh yeah, it works, just trust me, it works. So that's the Dynamax stuff. Again, we'll look at it more, but then we move on to gym battles. The Dynamax stuff comes up in them, but we'll look at gym battles themselves. So we see a shot of the stadium here, as well as people in the crowd cheering. So we're going to get some nice, audience members, because it was mentioned in the Direct that in the Galar region, Pokemon battles are a big form of entertainment, as they pretty much always have been in the anime. You've just never seen it in the games because they lack the drive to do it, or limitations on the devices, of course. We'll pause here for a moment to enhance, okay? Enhance on this boy in the crowd. He's wearing a jumper. On that jumper is a picture of possibly a new Pokemon. We know they like to put, in-universe stuff. Makes sense, builds some depth to the world. So we can see a Pokemon here that we just do not recognise. It seems to be a black and yellow squirrel, because you can see if we enhance it larger to the maximum size, it's sort of got head, little hands, little legs, and then a big tail at the back. So looks to be some sort of squirrel there. In terms of what the bottom squiggle is, maybe it's the name of the Pokemon, but we just can't tell. Or maybe it's actually part of the Pokemon as well. Who knows exactly, but it seems to be a squirrel, possibly holding a nut. So pretty much confirmed that we have a squirrel Pokemon coming in these games, because generally they don't put these designs in without having a plan for them. So hopefully that's the case. We'll see though. So that's another one we can look out for in future videos. It might even be revealed in the Treehouse Live next week. Throwing that away though, we can move on to look at the rest of it. Another thing to point out quickly here is there's actually a little camera that whizzes around the battlefield, so possibly this is used in gym battles, or maybe it's just a quick sort of intro whiz. And this camera is actually a Rotom cam. You can see there's a little yellow guy, yellow goldish colour, and also an icon as well on the screen which indicates that the Rotom cam is filming. I don't know why it's gold yellow rather than the standard Rotom red. But it seems, it's just another Rotom gimmick, basically. Oh yeah, Rotom can go in any device, like a Pokédex, or a phone, or a camera, or a GoPro. Who knows exactly, and they're not going to flesh out any more on that. They're just going to use it for what is suitable. Who knows though, who knows. Then we have the actual battle. We have the first gym leader reveal, who is Milo, who his face really does not fit with the body, but we'll talk about that later. And then we get the reveal of, as you've already seen in the bottom left screenshot, a new Pokemon again. We have Eldegoss, another pure grass type, evolving from Gossifleur, and you can see both him and Grookey then decide to Dynamax up and have a gym battle. So briefly for Dynamax, the way they described it, it can only happen in certain places, hence the different raid areas in the wild area. So obviously you have to go to a specific place because that's where the Dynamax Pokemon will appear, and maybe the gyms have been built on certain Dynamax places, hence why you can Dynamax them in the gym battles themselves. In terms of where else you can actually use Dynamax, apart from a gym battle or a raid battle, we don't know. It wouldn't make any sense for you to be able to use it in any wild Pokemon battle, because then that would defeat the purpose of the lore behind it, as in you have to be in a certain area. So maybe it will just be limited to just raid battles and gym battles, meaning once you've completed the game it's just the raid battles. So who knows, I guess we'll find out eventually, but it seems a bit weird if they do decide to be like, oh look, your Dynamax band has been upgraded, you can now Dynamax anywhere. That would be a bit annoying, because they just like to do that, don't they? We'll see though. Moving on further though, of course, we have another reveal for a character, and this is Leon. Champion Leon. Yep, they revealed the champion straight away, didn't really give us any time to do any speculation or anything along those lines. Apparently this guy is undefeated, which, just means we're going to be able to defeat him, or someone will, who knows. And he has a Charizard as well, so Charizard seems to be his signature Pokemon, which is quite interesting. Gen 1 again, so Charmander line's obviously in here, so we can only assume that the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle line will also be in the region as well. Another thing to mention about Leon is he's actually Hop's older brother, so your rival is the brother of the champion, so obviously there's going to be some sort of little tension there. He wants to become the champion instead of his brother, so maybe he will be the one to defeat his brother in the end, and obviously then Hop will be the champion, not Leon. Be a bit of bait and switch. Or maybe he'll lose to his brother, and it'll be a sad story for Hop, and we'll just have to swoop in and actually take the prize for ourselves. We'll figure it out. Another thing to mention on top of that is there's actually another link between Leon and another character, and that's Sonia. Sonia is actually Leon's old rival, so I guess back in the day, the prequel to Sword and Shield, we have Leon and Sonia going out to start their journeys themselves. Sonia obviously gave up being a Pokemon trainer to do some research with her grandmother, but there might be some lore going on there in terms of interaction between the two of them, so I guess we'll find out and see. Then, moving on further, last couple bits of the trailer review, we have the reveal of the legendary Pokemon, okay? So I'm going to have to remind myself of these names because they're not exactly the easiest names to remember. We have Zacian and Zamazenta. I have no idea if I'm saying it correctly. Zacian, Zamazenta I'm pretty confident with, but Zacian I'm not sure. So we have the sword and the shield. Makes sense. Dog with a sword, dog with a face for a shield, or shield for a face. Now, they initially start off this little cinematic by attacking each other. Zacian jumps in and swipes at the shield with the sword. However, then they stop, and you can see in the bottom left shot, they both stop and have a look around, as if they're looking for something else to appear, and they seem to have some level of respect for each other. They don't seem to be a warring faction very much like Kyogre and Groudon were. They seem like they maybe are, maybe they're not best friends, but maybe they are two things that can work together on a final third legendary. Because they look to the sky to possibly a third legendary, but we don't get to see anything. So I'll do a whole video on that because there's a lot we can dig into there. But then the final thing we see here is what seems to be their signature moves. Starting up, you can see Zacian just does like a sword swipe and then his sword glows. And then Zamazenta does, obviously just his shield glows as well. Nice glowy shield, so he's probably got a special move. And then obviously Zacian is a physical attacker because he's got a sword. And then the last thing to look at for this trailer is obviously the reveal of the release date and the box art. So they are releasing worldwide on November 15th, 2019. It's not a huge surprise. November is the general time they get released, and November 15th is a Friday. It's always a Friday. The more interesting thing to look at here is the box art for these two games, because I feel like the box art is really lacking. The art of the Pokemon is, it's whatever, it's your preference on the art. But behind them, it's basically a white box with a little bit of flair at the bottom, and I feel like it just doesn't look very good. It just doesn't look very good in my opinion. You guys can let me know if you've got any opinions on how the box art looks down below, but I would prefer to see some sort of background. I believe Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu have grass and sky behind them. Why not just do a similar thing for these two? I don't know. Maybe they're going for some sort of clean design here. But that's the trailer analysed. As I've said, there are a few more videos I've got lined up. They won't be coming out straight away. I'll probably trickle them out over the weekend and the coming days afterwards up to E3, and obviously if there's anything worth covering at E3, I may or may not make a video. It's just a case of whatever drives me, whether I pick up something. I very much doubt I would have actually made a video on this Direct in the first place, but after watching it, ended up spending about an hour with my girlfriend actually breaking it down as I've just for you guys and speculating, so I figured I at least owed myself to actually put it on a video rather than a private showing as such. So yeah, that's my thoughts and my theories sometimes for the new trailer. If you guys have noticed anything else about the trailer or the new information or anything about that, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. You can let me know if you've got any ideas for videos, anything you want me to talk about in particular, something I've mentioned or something I've completely forgotten about. Feel free to do that, and yeah, hopefully you'll see some more videos in the future. I can't promise a full schedule because, you know, I'm very much a case of I make a video when I feel like it. It's nothing more than that. So I'm sorry if some of you are disappointed with that, but hopefully you can cherish the ones that enjoy the ones that come as they do. That'll be it for me for today though, guys. This video is probably, it's a very long video. So hopefully if you're still here, you enjoyed it. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.